Welcome, everybody, to Brunch with Bobby. I'm Jeff Finn here with Bobby Babis, and we have today a special guest team of Mike Lerg and Chris Seher joining to talk about RealFit and how our test fit 3D technology test fit tool can be used to compress lease cycles by fitting out space, optimizing space, and in particular in the current environment and a new era of social distancing in the office space arena, how floor plans and layouts might change and workflow might change to accommodate, and how you might be able to use these tools to help your clients optimize their space. Unfortunately, Mike seems to be having and Chris seem to be having some trouble getting into the webinar here, so we're just slightly delayed. So if you can just bear with us for a minute to get them on board, we'll get started. So hold tight. And if you have any questions, general questions, Bobby is here and can answer your broader array of questions or any issues you might be having, and thoughts or that you'd like to get some feedback from Bobby on any of your RealNext applications. I'm going to put myself on mute here and connect with Mike and Chris, see if I can help them get connected. Bobby, if you can.
And actually, Jeff, if you want to actually switch control over to me, Tim did some releases this week. I figure I can just give a quick rundown on those since we have a couple minutes here. And, it's a lot of the time that Jeff Fisher was talking about last week. So.
Mike Lerg is on. Chris Seher will be joining in a second.
Perfect. Mike, I just gave the introduction. I told them you're having some trouble getting logged in. Bobby's going to show a few things while we get Chris on board. And as soon as you're ready, let us know and we'll turn the controls over to you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. That should be showing a blank CRM screen, right?
You got it. Yep.
Yes, perfect. All right. So actually, I didn't want to show the CRM though. So what I was saying is a number of those new features that Jeff Fisher's webinar spoke about last week on the lease analysis side, you'll be greeted by this page now when you go into lease analysis, showing you what the new updates are. So we've rolled out a lot of the functionality that we've added recently to the investment analysis side of Market Edge, but we've rolled those out now to Marketplace. So you can now easily filter the different, there I can actually close it. What was
that? No, you said Marketplace, but
so you now, sorry, Market Edge. Too many markets. Yeah, so there's now a left panel on the on all of the areas of Market Edge, allowing you to keyword search as well as select specific property types. So you can, if you have a large number of lease analyses in your system, you can easily filter those now. Let's see, there's updated report layouts. So if you actually go into the presentation, a large number of the changes are going to be in this view. So there's an added number of report layouts as well as additional cover pages that were added. And you might see now, you now have options between portrait and landscape options within the cover page, meaning that the entire lease analysis now can be done either in portrait or in landscape now to meet whichever requirements for you, and that can be hugely beneficial when you're doing a comparative lease analysis of 5 side-by-side leases. They can fit so much easier on a landscape page, making it just a lot easier to give the same sort of capabilities that you had on the investment analysis side. See, the summary tab has gotten a significant makeover as well, making it a lot easier to view and see the information at a glance here, being able to change between the different types of graphs and what information is graphed. Let's see. The maps and aerials under output are now actually customizable. These were pretty much set in stone on the lease analysis side, so we've updated that to use the same engine that it's going on the investment side.
And just quickly, Bob, you don't need to go through all the detail. We will later in another session, but the reports and presentations have been cleaned up and updated for better, smoother layout and display to consolidate, as Bobby said, 5 leases side by side. I think in the current environment, as we talked about in the session last week, the lease renegotiation, restructuring opportunity to show alternative scenarios with deferred rent and or blended extend type of opportunities. You'll be able to present cases to both your landlords and tenant to help them evaluate alternative options to try to accommodate current cash flow needs on both sides to bridge the gap between the parties. But Chris and Mike, are you ready to roll?
Yes, I've got RealFit open on my screen.
Excellent. Thanks, Bobby, for that quick update. And we'll get the controls over to.
Oh, my pleasure.
Mike. Get it to you, Mike, or Chris?
Mike. Yep.
Yeah, I'm on here too, guys. Sorry, I had a little bit of connection issues getting in. Hello to everybody.
No worries. We're all set.
Oh.
Yeah, so as I outlined, our RealFit tool here is an online 3D capability to demise space on the fly to work with landlords and tenants to help them see how an existing space could be reconfigured and move into the social distancing space needs, or for new spaces to again accommodate a workflow pattern and make sure that the space can accommodate the use of the tenant. So there you go.
You know, the thing I wanted to jump in and say real quick, Jeff, is so, you know, just to put this in as terms as possible, RealFit puts the ability to demise a space in your hands. So while we would create the base floor plate for the actual space itself and any of the non-editable walls, we give you the ability to go in and then take that space and inside of a web browser. So this is running inside of a web browser. This is not an application you need to download. You don't need a particularly fast computer to run it, as long as you have an internet connected computer. Works on an Apple, works on a Windows device. So it's, you know, it's not specific to any particular platform. And what you're going to start seeing here is Mike utilizing what is an extremely easy to use tool set. We make this so that you do not need to be a 3D expert. You do not need to be an architect. You do not need to know anything other than how to draw some lines, which actually what you just saw was Mike drawing out some walls just in the 2D template view. So he's drawing out some walls. He drags in from the right-hand side, which is your library of assets. So we have cabinets, we have doors, we have chairs, we have everything you would need to build out and, you know, fill the space with the proper objects. And so what he's going in now is he's just going in, and we've started with that blank area like you just saw before. And he's going in, put the walls in, automatically dropped the door right onto the wall, didn't need to do anything particular. And very much like a play set, you know, a build your own house kind of play set, able to drop in objects. And now as he goes up to the door, and you can see doors open automatically, you can look around the space. And, you know, we've got time of day, you know, adjustments in here. So you can see what it would look like, you know, as the sun starts coming in. And this is really great for very, very, very fast turnaround time of, you know, taking the space, sitting down with a client. Maybe they come in and, you know, they're looking at this particular area. And let's say they've got 20 people that they're, you know, they're thinking about pulling in here. They need 2 break rooms. They need, you know, a closet area. They need a couple of executive offices separated. And so you can come in here with that information in mind and quickly demise a space. The client right there on the fly, or, you know, they leave, you set it up in an hour or two, send them back the link to the actual tour itself, and then better understanding and decision point on the space. And what we're doing is we're cutting out the middleman in this. So, you're creating the space, you're doing the layout of the walls and the furniture, and then they can give you the feedback. And we're cutting this turnaround time of the decision process of getting this space leased out from what could potentially be weeks to days. So it's a much faster turnaround time, and it makes redemising, and as Jeff was saying, especially with the climate now of how far apart do we need to start placing desks? How do we create a work environment that is accommodating and safe for everybody, and also hopefully fitting in with guidelines that are recommended and suggested to make sure that we're being really respectful of one another's needs, and taking care of the layout in a proper and appropriate way.
And I see it. I don't know if you mentioned it, but are there measuring tools here so you can actually see how far apart the stations are?
We can measure, and another thing to keep in mind too, and I'm thinking it's obvious because you can see it on the screen, but what you see Mike doing is going from that 2D to 3D scene view right here. So he's able to jump in directly from above into the scene, do a full walkabout. He can change the metrics of the measurements, and have a full tour of the entire site.
Also, once you have the layout completed, then the other thing you can do is export it out to a 3D model that can be brought into AutoCAD. Also, it creates an Excel report of all the inventory of the assets that were put in, as well as lengths of wall, areas of rooms. So you can then do calculations for cost of materials or bill of materials for those estimates. And then hand that off to your architects or interior designers to then flesh things out further to make sure they meet ADA and other building code requirements for your location. So basically, this layout was created in a matter of a couple of hours. We were given a list of how many rooms, how many cubicles, the 2 conference rooms, 1 break room, and a reception area for this space, just that one space of this office floor. But also we could then expand on to working on other units within this floor. And we can also do entire buildings from floor to floor. If floors are redundant, especially for a new development, and you're laying out a space for a new lease, then cloning floors is only 10% of the cost of actually building the first floor.
The only other thing I can think about touching on, upon on this, Mike, is also the ability to take the screen captures from within the scene itself. So let's say, you've got this space and you want to embed it in a PDF, or you want to post it up to, a website, or, share it right here within the application is, multiple settings for capturing within the space, be it in the 2D or the 3D view. And it's as easy to get into the 3D view as it is to get into Google Earth. If anybody, and I think everybody's probably used Google Earth and Google Maps, you just drop your guy right in there and you're there. And that's the same thing with this. This is as easy as possible. And did you want to touch on changing a wall color image, the wall color and stuff like that, Mike? And that's the thing too, is it's extremely robust. And all of the tool sets that you're going to see is up there up on the left-hand corner. That's the whole spiel. But within those tools, you have an extremely powerful capability of demising the space, as well as customizing it in terms of colors, options, and as Mike said earlier, tracking all of the changes to the environment in terms of cost as well.
And also, even though I'm in 3D, I can still work on the space or a group of objects. So I can go into the top view. And I can move things around, but also if I go back to the 3D view, for some reason from this view, it's not moving all the other objects. And of course, there's undo and redo.
Did you talk about what it takes to get started? I just needed to
All right.
step away for a second.
Yeah, so if we're given, we can work from PDF floor plans. We don't need actual CAD files or construction documents. If you have them, that's great. The more information available, the better. Or if there's a 3D Revit or a 3D model, we can start working from that. We then convert that into a web VR, basically a 3D format for the web that then can be editable to make the walls, instead of just a piece of geometry, something that has some intelligence that actually knows you can put a door or a window on it or artwork on the walls. And so with that base cost of just building out the floor plate, that is at 15 cents a square foot. And then we license the software to run on your tablet or computer and be able to do the layouts yourself. I believe there's two price points of roughly $80 and $100. The $100 version gives you a straight export to AutoCAD and Excel, whereas the non-pro version gives you a 3D object file, which can be imported, but it's not as, doesn't bring over the layers and some of the metadata that comes across.
And is the client able to work on the file as well? Is there a way to do that, or is it just the license for the?
It's the license for the broker, owner rep, or tenant rep. Also, once you come up with a layout, then you can share a link to it so that then your clients or anyone else you want to consult with, you can then send them either the barcode or one of the two links if you want to put it into a web page or an email, and they'll get access. And what they get access to is the ability to walk around in all the viewing tools, but not the editing tools. They still have the ability to make images and do measurements, but they can't change the scene. So
If the client wanted to have access, that's an additional fee. Could they work on the,
yes.
particularly if you had a client that you're
Right.
doing multiple locations with, you may want
Right.
to work with them in a different way. So there's a way to add them as a seat basically on the license. Yeah.
That is correct, yes. And everything is on the cloud. The 3D model of the environment is saved in its own file. You can set up privileges to be private or public, depending on how you want the viewability to be, or to specific people to have only certain people have login access to access your design. And obviously, you go through an iterative process.
So as a leasing agent, you might work with this. You might have your landlord have a license, you have a license, and then you're just sharing files with potential tenants as they come and look, and you work with them. And as you do a tour, you can build out the space rather, again, as Mike and Chris were saying, rather than waiting for a couple of weeks for an architect to lay out a space and losing that time. And then there's another iteration. You can basically do the tour, build out the space, and know it works, and then you're more instructing the architect or the final design planner to put the detailed plans down rather than starting from scratch.
That is correct.
There's a question about does this come with a basic program? I'm not sure, Tom, if what you're thinking is that this does not come with your RealNext CRM or RealNext Suite subscription. This is an additional add-on module for called RealFit, which is a uh, two component type of program. One, it's a license to use the software, and then two, it's a project-based incorporation of the floor plate or the building into it. So once you license the technology to use, then each new building, if you're again leasing agent on a building, you want to put the full building in, or just if it's just has an available floor or suite in it, you can just do that, and you can do it incrementally in the building, add different floors over time as they come available. If you're working on the tenant rep side, as you tour different spaces, you can work with your tenant to, as part of the service, to provide this, again, taking the different spaces on different projects. And we can, the timing just to get the PDF, and it's a next day turnaround to get it loaded into the system.
Yeah, typically to build the base model is probably maybe 2 days, but to do your own layout, it's to do this entire layout from scratch was maybe 2 hours, and saving it out to a PDF from here is instantaneous, or you can save it out as a series of images to then be embedded in your PDF if you're using Market Edge for your marketing.
Is there a way to have, you said to put it into Market Edge for your marketing, different floor plans that you could show, like different ways that this could be?
Yes, definitely. So each iteration, if I go back to the edit mode, you have this share button here. And so this URL is specific to this layout. So if I was to delete these cubicles here and change them to be a different type of desk or a series of rows, and then I did a save as a new file, it would then be a different URL and different QR code. So with each layout image in your brochure, you could then have a link to its shareable file.
Right, so you could do an open floor plan or a private office plan, different configurations as alternative, as if you wanted to sort of set up a template that even in advance of a tour, you could be thinking about different ways the space could be used, so you're not just starting from scratch.
Exactly. And also, not to get too deep, but also inside the tool, there's a way of grouping objects. So if I was to, say, select all 4 of those, and then I can make a group so that now the next time I select it, I can then move that whole group, but also I can then save the group as an external file, or I can save a room, a whole room configuration, so that then I can then bring them in, drag and drop, and not be moving individual chairs, for example. So once I have a conference room layout, I can save that as a resource, and it will then show up in the objects list. It'll add another tab down here for your grouped objects.
And can a client put in their own objects? What does it come with?
Right now, right. We can import 3D geometry, but then that needs to be brought in by our team. It's not something that the user can bring in autonomously yet.
And
we need to make sure that there's certain standards set.
Yeah, particularly now with new standards being set, that there'll be new objects and new configurations for, what in that upper left is a pretty tight packed space. There's going to be some new whether from Steelcase or whoever, they'll come out with new furniture and systems that optimize that space with 6 feet of, or whatever the requirement's going to be to get people reconfigured optimally into that environment, and we'll have that loaded in the system as that type of layout becomes available.
Yeah, correct.
Their question about the cost again, how does it work per building, per month, per year type of sort of the fixed, the project base and the licensing base of the system?
Sure. So the project-based aspect is a one-time fee to lay out the floor plans. So let's say we're talking about a new build, and after the first 3 floors, the remaining floors are the same footprint. So if it's 15 cents per square foot to build out a unique floor plate, the other floors that would be duplicates would then only be 1.5 cents per square foot to lay out those. And you would have a file for each floor. We can also do a model of the building exterior, so you can look at it and then choose a floor and then open up just that floor for editing purposes. And then the licensing fee is roughly $80 or $100 for the non-pro or pro version of the software. And that's per user per month.
Paid monthly or paid annually, or either?
There's actually a reduction in cost if you pay it annually.
So for a 30,000, let's say it's a 3-story, 30,000 square foot building, 10,000 per floor. For the first floor, it's 1,500, and it's 150 for the second floor, 150 for the third, so 1,800 total cost all in to get the project loaded, and then I'll say $100 or $1,200 for the year. With, I don't know what you get to look at it depending on the number of users for the final pricing.
Right. That is correct.
Any other questions? It's a question for the audience. Do you see this as a valuable tool for you and your clients? Is this type of value add in the process of leasing space something that you think will streamline the workflow, enhance the service, enhance your value to your clients? So feedback's coming in saying yes, but obviously the price is the key to make sure it works, and the space is significant enough to make sense out of it.
True.
Are you seeing this in any other anything other than office space, guys? The people you've talked to, or is it
actually some medical applications? They're thinking about for laying out new hospital and medical centers. Obviously, we'd change out the assets to be more appropriate for that scenario. Also, possibly for industrial layouts of devising, say you have one large warehouse that's getting divided up into 2 or 3, or say retail, changing a closed up Kmart into 3 different units for, say, a TJ Maxx, PetSmart, Barnes and Noble, in place of the one Kmart. So once the mall is laid out, being able to move and rearrange walls on a per tenant basis.
With industrial, will you be able to put in racking systems and sort of show what the capacity would be? Yeah.
Right. We'd have to, again, for each of these, we'd have to add the assets, but you'd be able to drag and drop in different size shelving units, different heights. And obviously the walls, when you drag and create a wall, you then set its height. So then the other thing to add would be trusses, so that you have a clear ceiling height versus the actual ceiling height for the walls.
Excellent. Well, I think we covered the topic, covered the questions. Appreciate everyone joining us today, and pretty excited about this tool and how it's being used and adopted. And again, particularly in the current environment, we're seeing a heightened need for the ability to configure layout space for to work with clients to be able to optimize their environments. And I think that's it. Unless you have any closing remarks, guys, we will wrap it up for
If you have
today.
any questions, feel free to contact us.
Perfect. And I hope you all have a great holiday weekend, and we will see you back next week, last week of the month and last week of Brunch with Bobby. And hopefully you're all getting back to work and getting re-engaged as your clients are beginning to open up again and your states are opening up, and everyone's at a little bit of a different pace, but the process is moving forward. Pretty excited about that. So I appreciate everyone being with us, and have a great day. Thanks, Bobby, for sharing the stage with Chris and Mike, and thank you, Chris and Mike, for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.